Welcome everybody to Real Dad Speak. My guest today is a native Detroiter whose job moved him into the South, where he began a new life, which includes traveling the world and living his best life. He's a great friend who I've known for over 30 years, and he's also a tremendous dad. He's joining us to talk about raising a child who has sickle cell. I'll be talking with Kelly Littlejohn. Thank you, Kelly, for joining me today.
Hey Sarah, how are you?
I am well. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good.
All right, we're just going to start with some basic background questions. In what city did you grow up in?
Detroit, on the east side of Detroit.
East
I
side?
went to Kettering High School, so
Okay. Do you have sisters and brothers?
yes, I have a brother. He still lives in Detroit, and I have two sisters. One lives in Mississippi, and one is in Norfolk, Virginia. And both of them were school teachers. They retired though.
Oh, okay. What made them go there? Were their school, their college sent them that way, or were they in the service?
So my mom was married before she married my dad. So we
Okay.
have the same mother but different fathers.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. So are you guys close?
Yes, very close. Yeah, very, very close.
Okay. So what did your parents do for a living?
So my mom, she was a housekeeper,
Okay.
and back from coming from the South, she worked in the houses in Grosse Pointe. My
Mhm.
dad, he graduated from HBCU. He graduated from South Carolina State University, and he actually was a supervisor for the city of Detroit water department.
Okay. And you didn't follow in his footsteps. And your brother didn't either, I guess.
You know what? I kind of did and kind of didn't. So I was gonna go to Hampton University, but the police department called me. So I said, okay, well, I'll just do the police department. He said either go to college or, get you a career where you get a pension from it. So I ended up doing that.
And your brother, no, he didn't want to.
No, he ended up, he went to Pineywood College for a year and a half in Mississippi. So he left there and then he moved up to Detroit, to be with my mother. And he retired from Chrysler. And then after that, he worked for Smart. So he had a double retirement.
Okay. Now, when you said Piney Woods, I know it's known for his musical talent and stuff like that. Is your brother able? Is he a singer or he play instrument or something like that?
No, you know what? I came along after 20 years. I was the baby.
Oh,
So
okay.
so I came along after 20 years. And so my oldest sister, my mom kind of forgot how to raise a kid. So so my oldest sister came up from Norfolk, Virginia and helped her out a little bit.
You're
So
so silly. That's funny. She
it
forgot how
is.
to raise a kid, yo.
Right.
So,
Uh,
which one of your parents are you closest to,
well,
or
both of
were you?
my mom and dad are both deceased. So I
Okay.
was close to both of them. So I spent, all my time with them. My mom passed in 2010 and my dad passed in 2017. So
Sorry to hear that. Sorry to hear
thank you.
that. So when you did spend time with your dad, what kind of activities did you guys do?
So we used to go to, the baseball games and,
Mhm.
some traveling. We did some traveling down south because his dad had a farm in South Carolina, Gaffney, South Carolina. That's where he's from. So we used to do that a lot, and go to sport events and stuff like that.
Now, did he play sports? Do you play sports?
You know what? I had ran track for a minute until
Hmm.
I was ineligible.
What do you
So,
mean?
well, you do certain things in high school, and
Oh, your grades or something? Okay.
yeah.
Okay, we'll leave it
So
at that.
yeah. So my dad served in the military, and then after the military, he got a civil engineering degree out of South Carolina State College.
Okay. But he wasn't
So
a sports guy per se,
no,
athlete. Okay.
no, yeah.
Okay. All right. So how many children do you have?
Three. I have two girls and a boy. My oldest daughter is in North Carolina Central, getting her law degree. My daughter is named after me, Kelly. She's in Miami. She's working down there, and then she does like dancing on the side. She teaches bachata on the side, and so Alan is in Detroit. So it's two things about Alan he wanted to do. He was saving up his money to go to Japan because he wanted to be a chef. So he wanted to do like Japanese infused soul food.
Wow.
So and he's been learning Japanese. So he was working as an intern at Imaginette in Royal Oak with
Okay.
Chef Omar.
Hmm.
So what happened is that with the sickle cell, he was working 8 hours. He couldn't bear the pain of his back, so he cut it down to 4 hours. And then he was having a lot of crises, so he didn't go back in. So now he was like kind of discouraged about it, right? So I told him, I said, well, you know what you can do since you're so fluent with Japanese, you can go and be an interpreter. So
Yeah.
right now he's in December he's going to Chicago to get certified as an interpreter. He takes his test in Chicago this
Wonderful.
December. So wish him good luck on that. He has his own place now, his own car and everything. So he's doing pretty good. I'm proud of him.
All right, as you should be.
Yeah,
All right. So did you raise your kids to be close like you and your siblings then?
I did. I did.
Okay.
Yeah.
So because your girls are busy, I'm assuming that you are not a granddad yet.
No, no. I don't even. I don't even think my kids want kids. I have a grand dog.
I wanted a granddaughter and my daughter they got a dog because I always
Right.
had my grandson. So yeah. All right. So before you started the fam with Alan, you and your wife, were you aware that you guys had the trait, sickle
You
cell
know what?
trait?
That's the thing. We did a documentary in 2013. So
Okay.
that was the thing. So here in Atlanta, what we're doing, I'm doing a sickle cell walk on September 23rd here in Atlanta, right?
Okay.
And it's going to be know your trait. So at the particular time when I got on the police department in 87, I think it was 88 or 89, they had a blood drive, so I gave blood. So what happened was that I got the letter in the mail from the Red Cross, and they said, "Well, you can't give blood anymore because you have sickle cell trait." So I never did any research on whether or not, what's sickle cell trait. At that time, HIV was prevalent and stuff like that. So you just was really happy that it didn't come back that you were HIV positive or something like that. And so I used to go to this barber named Rick Dickerson, and he had sickle cell disease.
Mm.
So some days I would try to get my hair cut. I used to wear the high top fade back in the day. So I used to go get my hair cut, and sometimes they would be like, he's in the hospital, he got sickle cell disease. And again, it never dawned on me to wonder whether or not, to do any research on sickle cell disease.
Okay.
So ended up, what happened was that when my wife at the time got pregnant with Alan, we went and got the amniocentesis, and they said that it was a healthy baby boy.
Okay.
So they called us like 3 months after, told us to come in, and then they said he had full-fledged sickle cell disease.
Wow.
So, and really, two things with me is that I owe it to my son now to try to move forward to prevent someone else having a kid with sickle cell disease, or make a informed decision as to whether or not they are going to have any children if their mate have sickle cell disease. I mean, sickle cell trait.
All right.
So it's like a 1 in 5 chance that they would have a kid with sickle cell disease. And then two, it's like 1 out of 12 people in the African American community does not know that they have sickle cell trait. So now at that point, you don't never know to say, hey, you have sickle cell trait? Because I have sickle cell trait. I didn't think of that back then. And now, so I'm going to move forward with like knowing your trait. It's going to be a 5K walk, knowing your trait. And we're going to have the Sickle Cell Disease Foundation of Georgia come out and test people for to see if they have sickle cell trait.
Do you have a flyer for that?
You know what? We're working on the flyer now.
Oh, okay.
So once I get everything together,
Yeah,
I'll
because you
shoot
can
it to
shoot me
you.
the flyer, and during the break, we can present it for this episode that we're doing.
Okay, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely we can do that.
So what I thought you said was they knew that your wife at the time had the trait and you had the trait, so it was possible for two parents to have the trait and they still not have a child with sickle cell disease. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, because
Oh wow.
so my oldest daughter has a different mother from Kelly and Alan.
Okay.
So Kelly has a trait, but she didn't have sickle cell disease. So then Alan was born, and then he had the actual disease.
Oh, okay. So it
So
doesn't mean that just because both parents have the trait that automatically the child will get sickle cell disease.
correct,
That's
correct.
that's good. So, um, what is sickle cell disease?
So what it is that it's a blood disease.
Okay.
So our blood cells are circular shaped. And, it's a sickle that you used to cut down on the farm. It's shaped like a half moon or a quarter
I
moon.
kind of think of a boomerang, like
Right,
oh
like
yeah.
that.
So,
So what it does is that instead of it, sometimes they have pain when they have pain crises. It's like a traffic jam, right? It's like the it's like if you grab a water hose and you squeeze it and you fold the water hose when it's on, the
right.
water is still pushing through, but it's not going anywhere. So sometimes when they have a crisis in their veins, the blood is still pushing through, but it's hard for the blood to go through the vein because the actual stickiness of the blood cells stick together, and that's what causes the pain crises.
So it's like a muscular or nervous kind of. I mean, is it like how
I
is
mean,
it like? Um,
I guess it's
is it
the area
painful?
where it's very, very painful. Yeah, it's very painful. So, and sometimes if their hemoglobin go down, they would have to get a blood transfusion. They can't really get cold because that triggers a crisis. Altitude, it triggers a crisis as well. If they jump in cold water or put their hands in ice, like he used to, like if we had like a picnic or something, and he put his hands in the ice to get like a drink, it would cause him to have a crisis. So even when he goes swimming, to this day, even if the water is cold, it'll trigger sometimes a crisis with him.
And a crisis mean that the cells are getting stuck together and not flowing properly through his veins. That's what a
Correct.
crisis. Okay.
Correct.
All
Yeah.
right. So, how do you get sickle cell? I mean, does it is it just hereditary and only in the African American culture?
No, it's
Or?
not only with African Americans, but other ethnicities get it as well. So what happens is that I guess God is so amazing is that in Africa when they had malaria, so when there was an outbreak of malaria, and I guess the body found some kind of way of fighting it, and so if you have sickle cell trait or sickle cell disease, it would prevent you from getting malaria.
Oh,
Yeah, so that's how it came about with that.
wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So, is there a medication that's taken for it? To when you say he goes into a crisis, does he take medication to prevent a crisis? And does it work to prevent him from ever having them? Or
So now he takes this a drug called hydroxyurea, and it's like a pill form of chemotherapy, right? So he takes that, and it's pretty much it cuts down a crisis sometimes, um, but sometimes depending upon if he forgets to take it or if he puts his body in a position to get a crisis, he may get one. So
what do
he
you mean
does
put his
that.
body in a position? You mean like physically, like laying a certain way, or going somewhere where it's cold, or air conditioning?
Yeah, yeah, where it's
Oh,
cold or if it's too hot and if he's not hydrated. Because we went to Mexico and you got to make sure he's hydrated.
right.
I got to make sure he drink a lot of water because he can still have a crisis when it's hot if he's dehydrated. Yeah,
Okay.
because at that time, usually the veins, when you're dehydrated, your veins are not as pronounced in the
Hmm.
body. They usually shrink down somewhat. So you can get a crisis that way as well. So
Now, is sickle cell curable that you
it
know of?
is, so what happened was that it was a lady who had a leukemia and sickle cell disease.
Okay.
So when she had a bone marrow transplant, she had a bone marrow transplant and then it cured her sickle cell disease.
Wow.
But it's a 1 out of 10 chance with a non-match with bone marrow. So if it's a sibling on sibling and
Hmm.
it's a match, more than likely it's like more than a 50-50 chance that the person will be cured with that, with
Okay.
the bone marrow. But it's a 1 out of 10 chance if it's just a match not with a non-sibling. So
Okay.
on the documentary that we did on sickle cell disease in 2013, one of the kids that were in there, they did the bone marrow transplant, and her son no longer has sickle cell disease. Her name is Tamika McKenzie,
Okay.
and her husband, he used to be on. His name is Keith McKenzie. He played. They're out of Michigan, so I don't know if you know Reggie McKenzie that used to play
Oh, the
football.
field in Highland Park. Okay.
Yeah, so
But
that's his
yeah, from
that's
him.
his
Yeah.
that's his nephew. So
Okay.
he played for Green Bay, and he has a Super Bowl ring. So they ended up having twins after they had their son, and there was a match. And it was better for them to do it when they're younger because it's so evasive. It's like a 90-day window,
Wow.
whether or not it's gonna, if it's gonna work or not, and it's still
Mhm.
dangerous as far as the survival rate. So um, we went to the consultation with Alan, and he was like, "Are you gonna make me do this?" And I said, "No, it's gonna be your decision," because I wouldn't, I didn't want to take that chance and something
Right.
happened, and I forced him to do something he didn't want to do. So
Right. Right. Yeah. Wow. So, what kind of changes did you have to make for his quality of life? I mean, like he can go to school, he can play outside. When he was younger. I mean, did like some kids, their normal routine because they have allergies, they have to go to school
mm.
with an EpiPen. Did he have to go like with a sweater always, even though it might be 70 degrees outside, but the school was like 60 on the inside with air conditioner? I mean, what kind of
Well,
changes
he-
or were
yeah,
the
he
changes?
would take a sweater, and I would make sure he did that. And then too, it was like easy for him to get pneumonia too. So if a kid came around that was, he would have his friends come over and spend a night and stuff like that. But if they were sick, I didn't have them around Alan because it was so easy for him to get pneumonia. And then too, for high school, the main thing that happened in high school was that sometimes kids with sickle cell disease, it'll get in their bone, right? And some people will have to get hip replacement surgery. So, but unfortunately with Alan, it metastasized in his chest plate. So it started like eating away with his chest plate. So he was excellent in golf, but with it being in his chest plate, he wasn't able to really go to school. So he did high school online.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow. Okay. Um, So that's part of the physical restrictions that he'd have to deal with, because if it gets in the bones, then you can no longer do, certain activities or whatever, because
correct,
it can affect your bones.
correct.
So, but for the most part, is he living like a normal life for the most part? I
For
mean,
the
he gets
most
to go to
part,
work. Yeah.
yeah, for the most part, he does. He has his disability. So, and then too, like I said, he's pursuing, what he want to do. He was kind of discouraged about the being a chef,
Right.
and so like I told him, I said, you never know how it's going to work out. I'm
Right.
like, you're interning now, and he wanted to, open up his own restaurant and be a head chef and things like that. But I was like, you putting the cart before the horse because you got to get through this part first before you could go ahead and and get your own restaurant.
Right.
So, and you never know what may come up later in life. It might be a cure. It may be something that will, you know, be more effective with with him taking it and stuff like that to stop his pain. But so now since I guess it's Plan B. It's good to have a Plan B. So, he wants to be an interpreter. And then, two, dealing with the Sickle Cell Disease Association in Michigan, I just talked to the president of that, which is Dr. Wanda Sherney Witten, Dr. Witten Sherney. Her dad actually started the Sickle Cell Disease Association in Michigan. And when he had the little sickle cell mobile that used to go around to the schools,
I remember
he's
that.
yeah, he started that. So now with that, she has, I think, one of her directors uh, is a teacher, and she teaches Japanese, her and her kids.
Okay.
So she told me to put Alan in touch with her as well, and maybe he can teach part time. So I think he's excited about that.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, when he was younger, what types of activities did he do? Because he was, he's just the normal little kid that might have an episode every blue moon, right?
Right. He played golf. We played golf a lot. And then, he would do like, if I had known, I would have kept him with he used to do some like TikTok videos where he was, I don't know if you remember him, but he was like really to himself.
Mm-hmm.
But his alter ego was that he did the little videos and he played different people in the videos, which was different. And if I'd known back then, if how they made money
He'd be
now
rich.
doing that, he'd be rich right now. Yeah. So,
Oh boy. So when he was a kid, he didn't have a. Did he have a lot of episodes or
oh, he
not?
did. Yeah, he had
Did
a
you and
lot
your
of them.
wife have to get a caregiver, or did you guys manage to do it take care of yourselves?
We managed to take care of ourselves. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So prior to, like you said, you didn't know. Well, you heard about it, but you didn't know that he could have had it because they didn't tell you anything because you and your wife had the trait.
Right.
Um, when they called you in 3 months later, they said he has it. How did you feel? What was your reaction? What was what were you thinking? What went through your mind? Because I
Well,
mean, you
too.
have met people, you've met men who said they've had the disease, but you didn't
Mhm.
know,
Right.
to the full extent of it, right?
Right. But at that time when they called us back in, she was still pregnant with Alan.
Right,
So the thing about it was that we were upset because, when you leave out, they tell you got a healthy baby boy,
right.
and then they call you 3 months later. It's not like we would have aborted or the pregnancy or anything like that, but it's just the fact that you're going to tell us, okay, you got a healthy son, and then now all of a sudden you call us back and say he's not healthy. And it was more anger than anything.
Mm-hmm.
And then they give you the option is that if he kept his baby hemoglobin, there was a possibility that he wouldn't be able to, he wouldn't have the disease. But that was a long shot.
Wow. So some of the precautions that you had to take after he was born to keep people who were sick away from him.
Right.
And were there anything other, other things that you had to do, like certain foods or, certain places or things, to make sure that he stayed healthy all the time?
Yeah, I gave him like some natural stuff like cod liver oil in the winter, and he couldn't play in the snow.
Yeah.
So that was one thing. And then two, like in the winter, we just made sure he dressed warm
Hmm.
and so he wouldn't get sick. But for the most part, for all of his childhood, like in March, like January, February, March, when it got really cold, he would probably have a crisis. So it would just, it was like clockwork, during that time he would get sick, you know. Yeah. So, and then it's kind of hard because you really couldn't plan a trip or anything with him. So, like we went to we were trying when me and him just went to Cancun this year. We tried for like a year and a half to plan that trip, but he was still getting crises, and we had to keep canceling it. So
How old is he now?
21, he'll be 22 this year.
Okay. So
Yeah,
when he was in school and he got sick or at home, did he ever need a blood transfusion? Did it ever get to that or
yeah, yeah. He had several blood transfusions.
okay,
Yeah,
so
one time, like maybe I think it was 11 years ago. I think it was 11 years ago when it pops up on your Facebook memories. I think it was July. I want to say July 5th
okay.
or 6th. He was in ICU 11 years ago, and it popped up on my memories. So, and he
So
was on a ventilator and everything. So it was just a blessing. He's just been blessed, though. He's not a bad kid. He was really smart, and so the thing that helped him through all the way up until the point of high school is that he was able to miss and come back in and just jump back in and you know get the lesson. And kids used to be like, "Well, Alan really he'll come back in and he know the lesson, and he would get it right away." So he still did, had great grades when he was in school. So yeah.
good. So when he got sick in school, um, did he go to emergency and get treated? Um, I mean, because he has sickle cell, do they treat him like any other person that's sick, or is he a priority because he
He's
has
a
sickle?
priority.
He's a priority.
Yeah, at
Okay,
Children's Hospital, they make it a priority with
okay.
kids that have sickle
Could you
cell disease.
could you take him to another emergency, or you know what I'm saying? Like, it was that the one? You
That
know,
was the one.
that's the
Yeah.
one you.
Because they actually specialize in it. Sometimes,
Okay.
like right now, like he does a lot of speaking, to like different doctors. Like we have a cousin that she just passed her board.
Mm-hmm.
So when she was in medical school, because her brothers and them have sickle cell disease. So they ended up using Alan to speak to doctors,
Okay.
that's in medical school to give them their information as to, what to look out for and
Beautiful.
things of that nation. And then two, he, I mean, he doesn't really want to go to the hospital a lot
Right.
because the bad thing about pain is that you can't see it. So they automatically assume that these kids or these guys are drug dependent, because they want pain meds.
Wow.
Yeah, so now uh, Dr. Sherney has gotten some money from the state of Michigan, and they're going to open up an adult sickle cell center that's going to treat adults in Michigan. So that's going to be a plus right there.
One of the things I learned was that when you're a child and you go to Children's Hospital, you can go there when you're 21, 25, 26. I don't know that there's a cutoff age for you, but we had a
Hmm.
25-year-old that came into an adult hospital, and he says, "No, I need to go to my doctor over at Children's." And we was like, "It's
Hmm.
for kids," and we were informed, "No, that's not true.
No, right.
You can
It's to
be over."
26.
Yes, you can be
Yeah,
over 21, you can be over 18 and go to
yeah,
Children's and be treated because they have your records over there. And I was like, wow.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So as an adult, does Alan have to go to emergency less frequently now?
So now he's doing. I don't know the name of the medicine, but he's doing a procedure now
Mhm.
through an IV. So he does that once a month.
Okay.
So it's helping him uh, as more than it was before he was taking the actual, treatment that he's taking now. So it's less frequent, but it's like the pain is not as severe as it was. So he does pretty good with it.
So the IV was better than the pill then?
Oh, he does both. So he still
Okay.
does the pill, and he does the IV. I don't know what kind of the medicine. It starts with a B, and the name escapes me right now.
Okay.
But he's doing that.
Okay. So when he would go to the emergency when he was a kid, was it always an overnight stay? Could he like get in there, get a treatment, and then he comes right back in a couple of hours, or does you
It,
always have
it,
to
it
stay?
depend. It depended upon how his hemoglobin was. So his normal hemoglobin is like maybe a 7 or 8. So ours is much higher than that. So it depended upon if his hemoglobin went down to like a 4 or 5, he would have to get a blood transfusion. So and they would keep him. So depending upon if the medication worked for him
Mhm.
and got him hydrated, he
Okay.
would be able to maybe stay like 3 or 4 days.
Okay. So having sickle cell, do you know if it's the same? Like some of the restrictions, is it the same for boys as well as for girls, or is
Yeah,
each individual different?
so they have sickle cell SS and SC. So he has SS. That's the most severe. So and to me, I think it depends upon the child. So even like with the documentary that I did, it was like it's 3 different. I don't know if you know Marissa Rose. She's a singer. She used to sing with Kim, and she's in Michigan. So her daughter has sickle cell disease. Keith and Tamiko, their son has sickle cell disease, and Alan. So all 3 of the kids, it affected them differently.
Oh, okay.
So it affected her different from Alan, as well as Keith and their kid. So I think it. I don't think it's the same per kid. You know.
Okay. Okay. All right. So, like if he wanted to get a tattoo or piercings, are there any medical reasons that would stop him from doing that? Because it is a blood disease.
No,
I
he
mean,
has piercings and he has tattoos.
okay, so they even if you have, you wouldn't know to look at him and say, "Oh, he can't." Because I know that people that
Right.
have what is it? They get keloids. They can't get
Keloid.
piercing because they doesn't heal. Their skin won't heal up or whatever.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah,
so as
that
he
doesn't stop him at all. So he has piercings and tattoos. So
okay, so with some of the physical restrictions, does does it get better for him or worse as he's gotten older, or is it based on the medication, the science getting better and making his life a little better?
well,
Is
to me, I think when he reached puberty, I think it got worse for him. You know, as he
really
got older, yeah, because it was more the medication that they would give him only gave him like 30 minutes of relief because when they got in his chest plate, so I think, I mean, I'm not a doctor, but I think that it's easier to treat when it's in the vein, in the vessels, in the blood vessels and stuff, as opposed to in the bone. Because I don't really think that there's anything in the bone that they can give you
right,
as far as medication wise, that will stop the pain. Now we tried medicinable at one time, but that was when the pain was in his vein, so it was at a 10, and we did like 2 drops, and his system was so pure, he was just so high, it was just crazy, but it stopped his pain though,
wow,
and he just didn't like the way it made him feel, even with the drops. it it would like take him 3 days to kind of pretty much recover
wow,
from, yeah. So he didn't like that. So
right.
he wouldn't really take it as much.
Understandable. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's kind of like those drugs for mental patients. They just go to sleep all the time. They have no control,
Right.
and they don't like they're like zombies. They want to stay alert, just
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
control their body. So, but today, how is he doing today?
He's doing good.
Okay.
I always talk to him. I send him good affirmations, encourages him with the
Mhm.
Bible verses and stuff like that. I always say that he's the wind beneath my wings. That's our song,
Yeah.
the Gerald and Eddie version, because the strength that he has, and So sometimes if I'm aching, I'm like, shoot, I'm gonna get up and go to work because I know, Alan is probably in more pain than I am.
Right.
So I get up and go to work and just move forward because he's my strength. So I keep telling him that. So I make sure it's so much going on with kids these days. I guess they probably wouldn't have survived when we were growing up with bullying and disappointment and stuff like that. So much that kids take their lives. You just hear about it so frequently.
Right.
So you got to make sure, and I'm not saying he has a reason to do that, but I could see a person that's, his age that wake up in pain constantly and stuff like that. He does have a girlfriend and she's very supportive of him. So, and I think they really help each other. They blend together very well.
That was going to be my
So,
next question. Is he dating?
yeah, yeah, he has a girlfriend and they've been together. She's she just graduated from it's the I guess it's the Art Institute of Michigan,
Okay.
down off of right around the corner from the African American Museum.
Okay.
She has a degree in 2D animation. So I didn't know what the difference was, but
I
it's like
don't know what that
3D and
is.
2D. So
Oh, okay.
2D is the regular, like cartoons,
Okay.
and 3D is like the ones like where we used to see like Rudolph, Christmas and
Okay.
stuff like that with the actual characters in there. So
Oh, okay. Thank you
yeah,
for
so
that
they're doing really
educational notes.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they're doing
So,
real
is he
good.
talking
So
about marriage and having children or anything, or he just
he's
one
just
step,
trying.
one day at a time?
One day at a time, basically. But they're doing
All right.
real good. So I had some flight points and I had a timeshare. So I'm sending them both of them to Puerto Rico at the end of this month. So I'm hoping and praying that he pushes through and don't get sick where they can go ahead and take the trip. So
Yeah. Well, that's
yeah.
good. All right, we're gonna take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere, everyone. We'll be right back. If you want to get more information about sickle cell, its effects on children and adults, you can click on one of the links below. Welcome back, everyone, to Real Dad Speak. We're continuing our conversation with Kelly Littlejohn. We're talking about raising a son with sickle cell. All right, Kelly, this is the part of the show where I get down. It's called my final five questions or statements or fill in the blank. And so,
Okay.
question number one: what advice would you give a parent of a child with sickle cell? And is there
Just
anything they should or should not do? Should not do, rather. Is there anything they should not do?
Well, just be conscious, of, the weather, make sure they're hydrated. If they go swimming, just make sure the water is warm, like, what is it, Big Bear or the water parks that's in Ohio,
Kalahari and
Kalahari
yeah,
and stuff
stuff
like
like
that,
that.
because the water is warm. So,
Okay.
and just make sure they, I would say eat healthy as well, because sugar, some people, sugar play a big part of them, having crises as well. So I would say just, healthy eating, Alan eats healthy, uh,
So more
try not to
fruits and
get,
vegetables as opposed to snacking and stuff like that. Okay.
exactly, yes.
All right. So you said you were aware that marijuana can treat side effects, and um, how did you learn about that? Who told you that that it'll help with the pain?
Well, when medicinal marijuana became legal in Michigan,
Mm-hmm.
we just did our research, and then next thing you know, we ended up doing it. Derek Coleman gave me one of his contacts to get it, and we started doing it. Getting it from there, and Derek Wolf's brother has a medicinal um, location in Michigan, so
Okay.
he make the actual butter, the salve, and he can
Mm.
rub that on him as well. So he does do that. He does do the butter.
Okay.
that rubs on him. So that helps sometimes too.
Okay. All right. Number 3. If you were given the power to end cancer or sickle cell, which one would you choose to end?
Definitely sickle cell. Definitely.
Okay.
Oh my, for my son's sake.
Okay. All right.
I guess I don't know if I'm being selfish by doing that, but yeah.
It's just
And
a
I'm a
question.
cancer survivor too, so I
Mm-hmm.
still would I still would do that for him. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Number 4. What is it about being a dad that makes you the most grateful?
Let me see. That I can say that I'm proud of my children. Um, they I mean, nothing against somebody, kids who, have kids at an early age, but I'm proud of them that they're establishing themselves first before they, bring a child into the world. So that's really important, for them to experience life and then be able to, experience life with a child.
Okay. All right. My final question is a fill in the blank. If your dad were here with us today, um, and he would say, I know my son is a great dad because blank.
Yeah, I had a great example. Yeah.
Good. All right. Thank you, sir. Appreciate your time. And
Thank you, Sarah, for even thinking about me.
oh man, I mean, you have a life, you have a family that people need help with, and that's the purpose of the podcast. To, share information with other dads because they're not out there alone, and you don't have to figure it out. Try to figure it out, and there's somebody that may have went through what you went through, and
Oh, definitely.
this is the spot that you can come and learn, how to
Definitely.
handle it. Yeah. So thank you very much, and
Thank
we
you.
will we will talk soon.
Okay, great.
All right. Thanks.
Bye bye.
Bye.